Hello, it's Scott with Zenvi AI, and welcome to the Systems Are Sexy podcast. Today, I am joined by Oscar Brito. He's a real estate veteran and entrepreneur behind Metro Spaces. The tokenization was recently acquired by Genesis Holdings. Oscar has led and developed a range of high-profile projects, and now is pioneering the next wave of real estate investment tokenization of boutique hotels and branded residences. Welcome to the show, Oscar. How are you doing?
Very good, Scott. Thank you for having me on your show. Very excited.
Yeah, so let's kind of start at the beginning there. Can you maybe give us a high-level view of your real estate background and what led you to explore tokenization?
Absolutely. So I've been in real estate for about 25 years or so, beginning of the 2000s. We first started as intermediary for some exciting projects, basically raising money for entrepreneur developers. And we quickly evolved into the development side, kind of co-investing with some of our guys. And we started out like a lot of them by just flipping apartments in Buenos Aires, a few things in other places in Latin America. But I think the first exciting project where I kind of made a little bit of my mark was that I was one of the first two co-founders of the London Bulgari Hotel. So in that project, I was involved from, sourcing of the land when we first acquired it. When we did all the zoning, we increased the zoning by acquiring some, air rights around us. And you actually were the first ones to reach out to, and this was my partner who's, an extraordinary entrepreneur. He reached out to the Bulgari family in Italy when they were still owners of the Bulgari brand. And we convinced them to take a chance on us and our building and name it Bulgari as the first hotel, Bulgari branded hotel in the world. That project was very successful. We ended up selling out just before it opened, just shy of the 2012 Olympics. We sold out to our majority partners. It was a very good deal for everyone. And, from that project, we ventured into the Admiralty Arch privatization, also in the city of Westminster, London. So we acquired what used to be the Defense Department or the War Department of London, of the UK. And we also developed that. It's not quite yet done. It's still probably a year or two away, but that's going to be the Waldorf Astoria for London. Additionally, the team that we've gathered has a lot of extensive experience also in branded hotels in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. So we understand what branding of hotels does to the ADRs and kind of increasing shareholder value and return on investment. So what we're doing, Scott, now is basically taking all that knowledge and positioning ourselves on an STO, on a branded segmentized STO platform. The name is going to be Travaglio, and it's basically just going to be focused on branded luxury residences and branded boutique hotels as well. We're going to be looking at either buying. There'll be obviously like some of these other sites, a lot of different strategies, but we'll be focusing on high-end luxury residences, where there are stabilized units throughout the world. We still enjoy great relationships with a lot of brands around the world. We're also going to be looking into some pre-sales, kind of co-developing projects, and also some smaller ground-up projects. We're going to be looking into getting just boutique projects. Scott, we don't want to get into $100 million deals. They're just a little bit complicated, and we don't want complexity to our investors. We want straight up deals that they can easily understand and can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and where we can start providing return quickly to them. So this is where we're going to be establishing ourselves, Scott. I think STO market for real estate is just beginning. There's a lot of, kind of all kind of platforms that do everything for everybody. But I think the real estate investor is going to evolve on tokenization as they behave in real life, which is basically invest in segments with proven track record and people that have been there and done that. And that's where we're going to be establishing ourselves, Scott.
Great. So was there a moment or what made you focus on the gap in the market for specialized real estate tokenization? What made you start pursuing that?
Well, I mean, look, I've been lucky enough to be involved in a lot of deals in my life in real estate. It seemed like I was ready for a change. First of all, we saw it coming. A lot of us did. Tokenization is not just the future; it's already here. You see the trillions of dollars literally that are being tokenized by the big guys, Blackstone and all these other guys. So we thought, well, listen, how do we play in here? Do we try to be a me too, or do we kind of focus on what we learned to do really well and position ourselves there? So instead of going out and doing the same old traditional, development that we've been doing for so long, it's great. We love it, but we think there's another more exciting, compelling aspect to it, which is capital formation, not just for our own deals, because we believe that you need to know what you're doing to be able to really deliver the kind of IRRs that we've delivered in the past, but also to be able to choose with friends of ours, people that we know very well, that are very successful in this business, that we just help them on the capital front, but at the same time share that success with some of our potential investors on the STO platform. So it's already here. It's not the future. It's just the evolution of what we've already been doing in the past. It's probably more focused on the capital formation side of the business, but it nonetheless is still developing. Still, knowing what to do, knowing where to buy, and knowing where to invest.
Got it. So you had mentioned hotels before. How does tokenization change the way investors can access boutique hotels?
So that's a great question because, right now, traditionally, especially branded hotels, they get funded very easily by the big boys. You just go to the typical private equity funds or your family offices and you say, listen, we're building the Bulgari Hotel in Milan or whatever other city. And you raise the money over a few calls, especially if you've been in the business for a while. What this does is gives access to the crowd, to the, we're catering exclusively to accredited investors for the time being. But even accredited investors don't usually have access to this kind of investment opportunity. And what it is, and I think what's exciting is that it's already been established that branded boutique hotels do generate a higher IR than your traditional, type of hotels, non-branded or even the more traditional Holiday Inn type of hotels that you find in your everyday city, right? I mean, these are great projects, but it's a different set of skills and it's a different kind of margin that comes along with this. So it's exciting for us because we're bringing in a whole new group of investors, people that have probably been sitting on the sideline watching as others make a lot of money on these deals. And now we're going to be able to give them access.
Those aren't familiar with tokenization. How does it differ from an existing crowdfunding model?
So crowdfunding now, as you see some guys like Realty Mogul and Cadre, it's just basically crowdfunding. There's no token involved. And what that means is two things, right? I mean, the capital formation is done via the crowdfunding, but it's still very much you're calling investors and gathering people through your traditional private placement scheme. But I think the bigger difference, Scott, is that STOs offer quicker liquidity to investors, right? I mean, real estate is always tied in until the real estate stabilizes or the deal is sold or whatever liquidity event based on the performance of the developer. And that's great. We all invest in real estate. We know it's longer term and we expect a good return at the end. But life changes, comes at you fast. Sometimes you put in a certain amount of money and a year or two, you find other opportunities. You have a fourth child for whatever reason, or whatever happens in your life, and you need the liquidity. And that gives investors the ability to do that. And that's a good question because in our case, we're going to be very mindful to this. We're going to be looking to, as soon as we raise our tokens, we're going to be doing Regulation A structure or Regulation A registrations for investors so that at some point after we close, they can sell the tokens into either the established ATS markets currently out there, but we're going to be looking to develop our own marketplace focused on STOs for accredited investors and we're going to be pushing liquidity to this market as well so that there's an actual market and provide our investors, whenever they're ready to sell or whenever they see fit because they realize their return that they wanted, they can get liquid and maybe invest into another of our deals or do something else, whatever they want with their money.
So when you're managing multiple boutique hotel investments, tokenized deals, what are some of the biggest operational or data challenges you face?
So, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, a lot of these hotels, once you get them, the development is not, I'm not going to say is easy, but it's kind of straightforward, right? I mean, and most of in our cases, we're going to be co-developing with friends, people that we know, just so that we don't have to be worried about, the cement or buying literally, the casting or whatever. We're going to be delegating that with co-developers. But I think where we know how to work really well is that we're specialized in the marketing, pretty well. Most of these times, and there's always a lot of ways to market the nights once they're fulfilled. Usually, you bring on a partner like Marriott to actually run the business, or one of these, for example, Bulgari is actually run by Marriott, and they take a very reasonable fee for what they do. It's a lot of work, but they usually get you like a 70% occupancy, and then there's that other 15-20% where you actually make the money, and that's what we do. We know how to do really well. There's a lot of special marketing, ways to do it very cost effectively. Obviously, a lot of self marketing, like having a very good, robust website that actually takes on direct bookings. We pretend, I'm sure we'll be using all the booking engines that everybody else does, but we're going to be limiting that because there's very high fees associated with booking and that kind of platform that you guys know so well. So it's just having our own people that know what they're doing. And also to this, and this is a good question in our particular case, because we're working now towards an acquisition of a small hotel company of very knowledgeable people that we're going to be delegating the marketing, especially this side of the very tricky, very special part of the marketing for our hotels. So we're going to be looking to bring people on board. We look to be very lean. We don't want to have, like 50, 100 employees. We don't need that. But, we're going to have the right amount of people, and marketing is going to be one of our special focuses.
It seems like there's been a shift from Airbnb towards boutique hotels. Why do you think investors are making that move?
Well, I mean, I think Airbnb is very good for a particular type of traveler. But at the end of the day, if you go with your wife, your kids, you just want attention. You want to be pampered. And boutique hotels have kind of like that homely feel to it. It's not a hotel like one of the big hotel, 500 rooms or 300 or whatever. They have a home feel to them, and also kind of the unique experience that each one offers is something that a lot of people enjoy. And I think this is why people, feel that these are special places. Also, boutique hotels have the ability to, just because of their size and the way they make money, they can find special locations like a vineyard, for example. A boutique hotel is more proper for a vineyard than a 5-star high. So you have different sorts of experiences, not just in the room experience, kind of the your the kind of food that you have, the kind of specialized attention, but also again these special experiences like a winery, for example, that you can be part of, as part of staying in these hotels.
Got it. So, what are some of the biggest hurdles right now for tokenized real estate adoption?
I mean, look, we still, the way I see it, we got to learn how to sell the STOs, right? Sell these tokens. And what I mean by that is how are we going to raise money? I see ourselves growing to the point where most of our investors will be repeat investors just because they love what the experience with us. But we still got to get proficient at it. I see myself, we're going to be putting out STOs that I'm going to be 100% sure are going to be placed. So at first, I'm sure we're going to be relying on some of our private placement friends that we've had in the past, make sure that we can convey the story to accredited investors that they work with. But I think the crowdfunding aspect is the most interesting side of this. It's the repeat investor, that already invested with you and likes what you did, so they'll come back. So I think the most challenging in our particular case is learning how to, basically raise money with STOs. The operational side is something that we know well, the development as well. But again, I think just be good at the marketing and the customer experience, but the investor experience on investing on our platform. I think that's going to be where our learning curve is going to be.
So obviously you got a lot of projects going on, investors to track. How do you identify the most promising opportunities or try to predict performance?
Well, I mean, being developers ourselves, Scott, we don't sit back and wait to see what comes to us. We're very active in the locations and kind of the deals that we go after. So for example, the project that I just mentioned that's going to be announcing soon, it's a place that we know very well and is done by a developer that we know very well, and we know that they've been involved in this project for a long time. So like all developers, we look for location first. We look for the opportunity instead of just sitting back and waiting for somebody to send us an email and telling us, hey, fund this deal. That's probably not the way we're going to be funding deals. Probably continue to work like like we've done in the past to be successful. It's just finding our own way into what we think is a successful deal, basically.
You mentioned about investors. Do you think tokenization is going to open up luxury real estate to a broader audience?
Absolutely. That's what we're going to try to do, right? Again, we'll be focused initially on accredited investors until we get this right. Then we'll look to open it up a little bit more into retail. But yeah, and I know there's a lot of hunger for that, thirst, if you would, for this kind of investment. We again, these guys have been sitting on the sideline watching the, kind of the big money continue to make the big returns and the big money, and they don't have access to them. It's as simple as that. And I think that's where our opportunity lies as far as a product and an interface between branded, luxury deals and investors.
Where do you see it going as far as tokenized real estate in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Look, I think, and this is what, I'm going to toot my own horn. We saw it coming a little bit. Right now, you're going to be seeing a lot of platforms coming out and talking about real estate STOs. And you're going to be seeing a lot of mixed deals, like the opportunity to invest into a Holiday Inn type of hotel, some fund and buy and flip houses in the Midwest, just a little bit jumbled. And those are going to be you're going to be seeing more and more. Another one that you're going to be seeing more and more is just a basic platform that's going to allow developers to join and come on board and put their deals on board and hope and pray that they'll be able to sell the token and raise money. But again, I think it's going to evolve the same way that it's going to evolve to where investors are at currently, which is cemented, branded, special type of investments, and just kind of drilling down and being sophisticated at one segment. And I think that's where the people that see that and focus on one type of segment as opposed to try to be everything for everybody are the ones that be more successful. And I'd rather be a niche, a strong niche player, Scott, than try to be a kind of a loose player in all areas of real estate.
How are investors finding out about you guys now?
So right now we're just launching. Again, this is going to be part of the learning experience. But what we're doing is we know the agencies that are doing a really good job at placing these STOs. And they're the ones that have created a long-standing relationship with their investors. So, there are guys that you talk to them and they'll ask you to put up some money so they can kind of learn the business with your money and kind of guess. We're going to guys that have been placing STOs for a while and kind of know who the investors are. And they're going to put us on calls really quick with investors, right? I mean, we don't need to raise money at $500 at a time or a clip. We can establish higher because of our investors, right? Credit investors, we can establish higher minimums, $25,000, $50,000 range, and set up calls a lot of times. I think many times our platform will allow for automated investment. Somebody that just likes what they see and they join and they made their first $25,000 investment. But I am sure at first, until the market gets to a certain point, I'm going to be getting on a lot of calls. And again, and also kind of the plan B, Scott, which is going to be private placement. We think at first, a lot of people need to be kind of held onto the STO market until they feel comfortable. And we're ready to do that. We're happy to do that, transition investors over to the STO structure, basically.
What excites you most about the future of tokenization?
Look, I think, and I actually put a tweet out this morning, I see a lot of great developers that have great ideas, but every deal is kind of like starting from again, right? I mean, you close a deal, you sell the hotel, you have a certain capital, but the next day you have to raise the capital again, even if you have another great deal right after the bat. It's kind of the capital formation is still difficult, Scott, for a lot of developers. These are guys that know real estate, they know how to develop, they know how to sell, they know how to market, but sometimes it's just difficult to raise money, and it's an expertise that's probably not, that doesn't always go by the hand of the developer, basically. So I think STO, and probably not in our case particular, but I think the STO platform industry is going to be a great place for capital formation for developers. And I think, again, it's going to bring them closer to a broader audience of investors and give them a lot more choices than they currently have.
Okay, great. So if someone's interested to learn more about what you guys are doing, what's the best way to find out about it?
So I'd say, listen, follow GNIS is our ticker symbol, Genesis Holding. There's a lot of great things that are coming that I can't tell right now because they're still, being worked on and still, confidential. But just start following us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is RGNISNYC. So it's basically RE, our ticker symbol, NYC. Go into our OTC Markets account, look us up on OTC Markets. GNIS will be posting regularly on all our contact information. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, we just got involved with them with Genesis. They just acquired our assets, so we're still kind of updating our profile and everything else. But we'll be coming out with regular press releases and telling everybody what we're up to very soon.
Well, really appreciate the time today, Oscar. Thank you.
You too, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity to meet you and be on this great interview. Thank you for your access to your audience. Thank you, Scott.